In another video, I had suggested that cognitive dissonance was one of the reasons that we were seeing destruction of America. And, you know, it really is just another form of orchestrated conditioning. Most people don't realize it. So, what is cognitive dissonance? In basics, it is a situation where what one believes is so far removed from the actual reality that it creates uncomfortable situations for people. For some, you know, it can get to a degree where it's almost painful. And the further difference between perception and reality, the further that gap and distance moves away from one another, the more difficult it becomes. That's the basics. It's basically, it can be something in your own life where, your life is so much further away from what you thought it would be, when you thought it would be. It could be the idea that, our government would never harm us. And then coming to the grips in the reality of, well, gee, there's a lot of proof out there that, hey, sorry, yes, they would. So this creates a kind of distortion, and it creates a battle within the mind of trying to reason this stuff out. And a lot of people, when they are in the reasoning phase, as I like to call it, they try to find ways to justify why things are so far apart from what they thought and what reality actually is. So, using Boston as a prime example, that kind of martial law and lockdown and armored vehicles and military geared and armed troops on our streets is not something that we've ever thought to be a reality. It's not what most of us were taught America is about. So, in order for people to justify this, they will use the excuses. And this is what I call nursing your cognitive dissonance. They will use the excuses of, well, they were just doing it to protect us. Okay, well, great. In this situation, maybe they were, but what happens when they bastardize the process and start using it for other means? And this is the thing that gets a lot of people, and they don't even realize it. It's a little thing that the powers that be like to use as implied consent. Okay? When we are silent about various things and we don't push back, we don't talk about it, we don't put them in their place, they take that as an implied consent from the people that says, okay, well, obviously the people are going to allow us to do this, so this is something we can now do. They've done it with numerous things, drones, the prison industrial complex, and the laws that are just spiraling out of control. The little bullshit games with the Monsanto protection rider. Okay, these are just examples of the crap that they pull, and then as people don't push back against it, as people are too conditioned or they're too withdrawn into their own problems, they don't band together with other people and realize the larger and broader societal ramifications of some of this stuff. They're very much stuck through conditioning and fear in the present, in the now. And there's a lot missed at how this stuff can be manipulated, bastardized, and everything else in order for them to push other agendas later on. And because they got away with it once, they will do it again until such point in time that people in sufficient masses stand up and push back against it. And that's just the way it works. This conditioning and cognitive dissonance situation has another factor involved with it, and that is fear. Why? Because there is a constant smear campaign going on towards people that, try to talk about this stuff. They try to put the facts out there that, look, do you realize, because of what they just did in Boston, they will now more than likely do that anywhere in a similar situation, and they may do it in other situations just because they got away with it in Boston. People don't talk about it because when they do, right away, they're a conspiracy theorist or they're wearing a tinfoil hat. So, as I had said in one of my other videos, awakening is painful. Not only in the illusions it shatters and the pain in our shattered realities, but also in the ostracism at the hands of the many still sleeping that do not yet comprehend the dire trouble we face as a nation. It is hard breaking the mold we're conditioned into, resulting from our growth, teachings, and culture. Awakening, by far, is not an easy process for anyone, and the consequences can be crippling as well. Society has created far too many ways to silence those believing outside the established norms, and a plethora of labels exist to character assassinate any brave enough to start such a journey of enlightenment, let alone speak of reality, and an attempt to wake others. These are the games that they play against us, and it's all psychology. It's all psychological manipulation. Whether it's through mainstream media distortion or whether it's through their use of agents on the internet and chat rooms, and just Google it, look into it, because Israel has agencies like Aspera, which are nothing but PR people in order to spin things in order to make Israel look good. And corporations have these things, government as well. So, there's a lot of things out there where it may give the perception that a large portion of people may have a particular opinion about something, but the question then becomes, who are these people with an opinion? Are they these different groups that run around in wolf packs trying to pat each other on the back and try to shape and form public opinion, or is it genuine people? And really, it's difficult to weed through it and figure it out. And it's intentionally orchestrated that way. Through people continuing to nurse the cognitive dissonance and justifying things that just should not be justified. Israel, another example. The way that they oppressed Palestinians. I mean, come on. We're talking about a supposed nation of people that have armor, including artillery, aircraft, ships, and a standing army, going up against Palestinian people that have none of that. And people want to try to use the distortions that they eat, fed to them by mainstream media, and try to justify why this should happen or why it's okay. And there is no justification. That is force beyond compare, and it is no different than the similar situation where America and our forefathers and settlers ended up doing similar to the indigenous Indians. Same thing. It wasn't right when we did it to them. It's not right at this point when Israel does it to Palestinians. America, at that point in time, the people, the settlers, had superior force. Israel, at this point in time, has superior force. There is no way to justify this. But you, well, maybe not you, but many, will try to nurse this cognitive dissonance, suggesting bullshit, lame excuses like, well, you know, Israel has the right to self-determination. Well, I'm sorry, their asshat, but if Israel has the right, then doesn't Palestine? If one people have a right, then why doesn't another? So, I mean, some of the shit that people talk in this is just asinine. And far too many of them really, they don't know. Why? Because they watch TV, they think they're informed, and when they do see the little bit of something that goes against the ideologies and the conditioning and the belief, and the veil starts to come off a little bit, that's when the cognitive dissonance kicks in. And that's when people start nursing it. They try to justify shit that they shouldn't justify. And then suddenly their heads go right back in the sand because it's too much for them to deal with. Got to push past this, people. Humanity is at stake. Our freedoms in America are at stake. Stop nursing your cognitive dissonance. I know it's painful. I know it hurts. Been there, done that. You are watching and listening to a vet from Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I went through the same conditioning through the school education system that anybody else went through. Then I ended up going through the college conditioning as well. Plus, I had military. And if me, as somebody that's that conditioned, can have the strength to sit back and look at some of this stuff and question. And if I can realize why it's so important to keep questioning this and bring it before you in order to evaluate and think for yourselves, than anybody else can. There is nothing that makes me any better than any of the rest of you. Probably the biggest thing for me that enables me to do this is the fact that I want better for my kids. And in wanting better for my kids, that means better for your kids, your future generations, just as well as my own. And the other driving factor is that I want to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And to me, nursing cognitive dissonance is being part of the problem. Being afraid because of some bullshit name somebody's going to call me or try to label me when they don't even know me. Again, fear of that is doing nothing but continuing to contribute and be part of the problem, because I'm not strong enough at that point to stand up against the bullshit. I understand fear too. There's a lot of people in places, and the radical communists, they will not hesitate to kill people in order to try to maintain their power and their control. But people, there are some things that are worth dying for. So why fear death? Everybody's got to face it at one point in time or another. None of us will live forever. And although it's not a pleasant thought, it's not a pleasant realization, but if it takes me doing what I'm doing and somebody recognizes what I'm doing and they want to try and silence me and death is the result of that, if it means waking up some other people to where this bullshit changes, well, then to me, it's worth it. Stop nursing your cognitive dissonance. Take a stand. Have a thought on different things. And if you don't know enough to have a thought or to take a position, then educate yourself so you can. catch the other videos I did recently. There's a lot for people to think about in the stuff that I put out recently within the past week. A lot of that stuff was designed in my thought processes to try to help other people get through some of this stuff and get to the point where they are willing and strong enough to stand up so that we can all stand together and we can make a difference. Cognitive dissonance is part of what's helping to destroy America. Put yours where it belongs. Find your backbone. Think about it.